Alright guys, BLM here, back with more Forbidden West. Continuing on, I guess we're doing that mission, right? What is the mission called? Call and Response. Oh, it's the errand. I didn't realize it was an errand. Whatever. But yeah, just ate lunch. We are back. I'll probably record for another, like, hour and a half or so. Since there's downtime, might as well listen to the podcast.
Well, thank you, Nina. Thank you on your last parting gift that we can't be another one.
I've literally been trying for 3 seasons to do a final 3, and like, there's always these extenuating circumstances.
I know. It's not fun how it happens, but I enjoy watching that be thwarted.
I think that they will have enough up their sleeve so they finally get what they've wanted. If they've been trying for so long, I reckon, yeah, so be prepared for Redemption, Rock, and for some other treasure.
Yeah. Well, I hope not, because I've been really high on production this season. I want to say something I really loved, super small, immediately overshadowed by Nina's injury, but I thought splitting the tribes for the reward was super fun. Obviously doesn't pan out because...
so good.
Yeah, I think that they should do that multiple times a season. And yeah, sometimes as it happens, like, the same tribe, like, has a, I think, 33% chance of going with their tribe base, which, yes, is a little boring. It's not what they would have wanted to happen. Or it doesn't. And then, like, the way that, like, I thought what was going to happen was, like, Ben's part of the tribe doesn't go because he, like, really wanted food, and then he'd be, like, so mad. Like, cross-tribal connections, some inbuilt, like, jealousy, some unevenness, the fact that the clues and the idols have all been at rewards, so there's, like, extra strategic layers to winning, and now you're, like, against your own tribe. Super fun, and I think every franchise should be doing this multiple times in a season.
Definitely, and in All-Stars, I thought they were going to do it way more than they actually did. We had the thing where Lockie and Bibi could buy their way into a challenge, and then we had the episode where I went home when we were able to bring over Brooke and Johnny. But I thought they were going to do way more because of the inbuilt connections of it being All-Stars. Perhaps they're doing it here, they were trying to do it here because of the Blood versus Water thing, like they had that weird summit thing. So any time when they can find ways to have them interacting, big tick from me.
Yeah.
Loved it, and I hope they do it again.
Yeah. A couple of other things. So, Croc does not pass the idol to Chrissy, and JLP has said on Instagram, and Croc confirmed to me in the exit. I'm giving away a lot of the exit. I'm basically the Australian Survivor Pro team right now, but it's important to talk about. And he said that he wasn't thinking about it, and he seemed like overwhelmed by it, but they told him that had they passed it, it would have been taken off her. So the beast has been vanquished of idol passing, and that seems to be gone, which is great.
That is again another thing that I do not have an issue with,
this
and I
is so wrong.
did not have an issue with it last season.
It literally, like, we did a whole segment on Talking Tribal for the World of Survivor segment. We did people who've been voted out with idols, and you know what? It makes it a lot more interesting when that idol leaves the game with them. So
no, it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
How is that interesting?
Because no one will vote people out for having an idol if it will stay in the game. Like targeting Khan because he has an idol, and they wanted to do the 2-2-2 split. If Khan doesn't play the idol, he will go home with it. In this world, it won't matter because he could pass it to Chrissy. It like completely makes no sense to then target people with idols, which is always a really fun move and always a really big move. And George has said, I think, that he never would have targeted Kez if he knew that it would stay in the game. Actually, with someone who he didn't even know had it, that would be like completely against him for making a good move. So yeah, it dissuades people from making the epic move of taking out someone with an idol.
I get it, but I also like the idea of having to surreptitiously pass it to someone, and then maybe they don't want it, and they've been branded with it. Anyway.
I think that trapdoors continue to be relevant, and it's clean. When you take someone out with an idol, it should go with you and not kind of mess up that whole like iconic move. One more thing I want to ask you is something I've been thinking about. I think we got this question was, so say Khan does get voted out on Sunday night, and he gets blindsided, he doesn't play his idol. Then it's a twist, and he keeps his idol. He got the most votes, like, he was blindsided. Should he lose his idol? Like, should he be rewarded for being blindsided, where it would actually have been worse for him to play the idol? JLP says if anyone has an idol, like, it's not like you can't play it. Like, that opportunity exists. And the right move if you're being blindsided is to play your idol. But if there's a twist, it's the wrong move and you should keep it. So I don't know if he's like reading the twist, but do you think that they should be past of that, where like if you get the most votes anyway, you lose it? Like is there something to that?
Look, obviously I see
didn't realize it
differently
stopped.
to a lot of people on this based on what I
guess
said
it makes
before.
sense.
But I
Just
think
hold
that
on to it.
the show was always going to do what makes better TV. And what makes good TV would be the idea of Khan going to the other tribe and they all thinking that it's easy pickings and that his idol is gone and that he's got it. You know what I mean? And then he pulls it out and is able to kind of like be the underdog who survived and then had an awesome idol play to kind of get back in power. And you know, the show will always do what's
He's
going
like
to be
getting
best TV.
instantly knocked down and
I think that the I don't know how they would word that in the rules, but or what their contingency plan was. But I kind of would have liked to have seen him if he was go over there with it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that it's super fair. I think it depends. It's like, if Khan gets blindsided, it doesn't really feel right that he got to keep it. It's like rewarding the wrong move. But if Khan was reading production, then fair play. And like, I guess you don't know. Like for me, if I had an idol and I heard tonight's going to be a little different, or I saw another tribe there, like I never played in a million years, I'd be like, well, I've got some sort of out. And if people are reading that, I think that's completely fair on them. Obviously, if they make it a rule that if you get the most votes, then they couldn't read that anymore. If you get the most votes, you have to lose the idol. I think it's something to think about. I just think...
Actually, the machines got him. Took him by surprise. I'm sorry.
What? He was the first of the squad. Our best fighter.
He's gone, Kiva. It's just the two of you now.
Damn, Tekote. All we did was go to the embassy. Follow Chief Hikaru's orders? And what do we get for it? A death sentence dressed up as guard duty. All because Tekote has a vendetta against the chief.
Well, that ends now.
Yeah. Thanks, Outlander. Here. This is for you. Pavalo! We're moving out.
Tekote is an underhanded jerk. Maybe now he'll stop wasting lives over political agendas.
So, oh yeah, I did. What was the skill tree that I wanted to get? I don't think it was that one. I think it was Survivor. Fuck. This one was crafting related, right? Yeah, there. Oh, it's play research related. Shit. I don't have enough. That's kind of shit. Yeah, I'd like to get all those. Alright. Where are we at now? See, I don't feel like I'll go down there. What is this? Actually, what is that supposed to be? Is that supposed to be a mountain, or is that supposed to be water? Either way. I guess this one? Oh, that's level 32, though. No, that's too high. I don't feel like I can do that. So that's just waiting. It's level 28. I think that's a bit too high. Where is that at, anyway? Oh, it's like way down there. Alright, where's this one? It's all the way back there. Yeah, I think most of the quests that we would realistically want to do are back there at this point. That's level 15. Let's just get there, I guess.
There's some backward stuff happening, obviously, when you can get voted out and remain in the game with your trinkets, and it's just something to consider. But I don't have like a hard answer on it yet. I don't feel super comfortable about the fact that you could get blindsided, make the wrong move, and keep your idol in because you did the wrong thing. But as a survivor, the votes, the squeeze of survivor. Let's talk about it because I really enjoyed
How far away is this?
spending time with Weta this week.
Oh, that's far. Okay, never mind. I thought it was like right next to us. I'm not next to us, but like 100 away or something.
A lot of like homogenous groups kind of picking off outsiders. Not really an OG blood as much when like Sandra was cutting it up, but yeah, this tribe now kind of like descended. At first they did kind of pick off Ben, but then it descended into these voting blocks, and then it became intricate. So what were you feeling about Weta this
tribe I've been on is 5, and I found it infinitely more interesting and surprisingly maneuverable than I did in a bigger tribe. I feel like that when there's so many moving parts, people can get a little bit feel a little bit overwhelmed with how many people they need to convince. So I do like when I see it when it's small like this. So I was really glad that was where we spent a lot of our time, and it's smaller and smaller. So when we talk about the first.
Yeah, I mean, like, I guess like one of the fun things about the small tribes and something we spoke about in 141 is like there's such a highlight on you, there's nowhere to hide. And I feel like this was a lot of that. I think Jesse emerged after being like the non-character pretty much before this, and I think has like the most confessionals of the week. And I was very hard on Jesse through this week. I don't know if that's like a hot take. I know that you've tweeted that you feel like he's a losing finalist, but like even aside from like his broad games, I think he has an uphill battle. Did you like what Jesse was doing this week?
I did like what Jesse was doing. I really liked the interaction between him and Sam. I like that there is a young kid who's coming in there with I knew it! You know, I like that he's I like that from Adelaide. The reason why I tweeted
I don't know why I went to that one.
From him without it actually having a serious role play second banana to Sam. That was I still feel like he's he's going to be there for I think he's going to the end. But I'm very wary of
I'll stop you!
I can see not that but I can see him being a what's the word? A juicy team.
No. Just a good option. No. Just say normal words. Don't even.
Oh my god, what a great mistake.
You know what? The fact that I'm gonna sit here and stop you since no one did that for Juicy Dave, and being friend stop friend from saying what a great nickname when it's not.
around here.
I know, everyone on Twitter is like, oh my god, who comes up with their own nicknames? 2 days later, like,
Tasty Nick. Now like an Instagram account. Yeah.
commenting on JLP posts saying, would you say it's a little bit tasty?
We go now!
Underestimate me. There's only a lot you can do. If you want to go down that path and be that person, wouldn't endorse it myself. Yeah, it's a tasty option for the
tasty endorsement.
Yeah.
The official Tasty Nick endorsement is that Jesse is going to the end, and I think I said this with the Xander thing, so I'll just say it again. Like, having been out there twice, I know that people are very reluctant to want to award prize money to people who are younger, and it usually.
We've seen it in Australian Survivor.
Well, but you know, season 1 was a little bit different though. You know, Christy won out over Lee, but there was very different circumstances around that whole first season. But I just feel like there was a lot of chatter even in season 1 of like people not wanting Blink to win, not wanting Brooke to win, not wanting Connor to win. You know, because they didn't have these kind of like live setups, especially in the face of someone like a Sue or someone like an Elle or someone like a Lee or whatever. So that is something that I thought about, and even in All Stars that came up again. The idea of, you know, like who needs this money, who not even know who needs it, but like who has someone that they can give it to that like has like earned their stripes in the world by having like a varied life. Now, all that to say, that's just my gut feeling. I have nothing else beyond it apart from that. I just think of the fact that his nickname is the kid. If I was him, I would probably be pushing back against that name and trying something else and like renaming myself Tasty Jesse or something like that.
Stop.
Better than.
They called him Juicy Jesse already. That's why he's like, no, it's actually the kid. I don't care that this is a detriment to my game, but like, don't say Juicy Jesse detriment kid. I'd rather be a losing finalist than even just go down this path.
Ready to go if anyone wants to.
I think that he's great physically. I think he's really great socially. I think he might get a couple of votes but I think that I don't know. That's my. I could be completely wrong, and he could be gone next week.
Well, it's an uphill battle because he is the kid, and he's leaning into it, and that makes him less of a threat when he is physical, when he is social. But then it's like, how do you get the votes at the end? So I think it's an uphill battle. That's actually why I liked what he was doing this week so much, because he played hard. It put a little bit of people off because it's like, why is this young person dictating to me to a degree, or why do I kind of feel like I'm being led by this kid? Literally, the kid, Tasty, Juicy, Jesse. He has that nickname, and I'm the one following him. Like, you know, KJ didn't love it, Croc didn't love it. But if you are the kid, and you are heading to a game that can't win, like, you have to play out of your skin. You have to play big. He gets a vote. He becomes a target through it. But he covers so well for it, and he's making a name for himself where he can go and actually really speak to the resume. And just to talk a little bit socially about what he was doing this week, I mean, you say he had a good social game. I think that's underestimating. I mean, Chrissy loves him so much. She briefly baked breaks from her loved one, and what we will discuss is a historic move, is cut up about the idea of voting for Jesse. Ben comes right back to him and Sam. Full credit to them, and we'll talk about, you know, how that worked for Ben, but credit to the duo as well. He's doing some fun stuff with Ben and the food. Like, I love how he was like wanting to starve his prey. Very evil from the kid. I thought like there was some good stuff around making Ben feel comfortable, like making jokes to undercut the tension at times. Like Sam was doing this too, where she like acts like she hardly even thought of Khan's idol. It's like those small little moves from this duo that are just like really casual, but I think like really impactful. So he's doing, I think, a lot really, really well. They come for Ben here, which I think is a really good move for him. Obviously someone that he sees as a target, obviously like something he can put on the resume this early on, because he's going to have to keep building to the resume because he does have that precedent to like kind of fight against in the way that people perceive him. What did you think about this move for Sam? Because I think Sam is so connected, like nothing to quibble with in terms of her relationships. But then I thought like, well, we already see Shay and Nina early on talking about like how Mark will be the first target because he's the biggest guy, and I just thought, well, Ben's a really big guy, and like you guys are such a similarly physical couple. I thought like for me, I would have thought she might have wanted to keep another shield for Mark, even though he does have like, you know, a whole meat shield contingent going on.
Yeah, I think there's enough that isn't going to be a big deal, because
is there no?
if people all want to turn on like the big dudes,
it's not.
while Mark is one of the biggest, I think people know that Mark is not the prototype of what those challenges favour at the merge, and there's also other bigger dudes that they can probably target. And so I don't think I like your thinking. I really do. I hadn't thought about that, but I don't think in this setup with these people left over, that was probably the necessary move. I just think that Sam is playing so well socially, like, unless we're being misled by the edit, I just think she's playing so well socially that, like, it doesn't matter who she goes for, really. Like, you saw her be able to say, and I know I'm skipping ahead here to when Ben said Croc wants to get Jesse out, she goes, this is the new 3. It's like she can just kind of, like, establish new groups at the drop of a hat that are actually going to carry through. So, to be honest, I love Sam. I met Sam, had her in my house, all this great stuff, but like, I didn't think she had this in her. I thought she was always going to be a good Survivor player, better than she got with Season 2. I always was much higher on Mark's ability, but I would say watching both of them, like, I think they are both as... They're on par with like playing really, really good games. So to me, from her perspective, I don't really see it as being too big of a deal who she targeted.
So why is it so hard to believe that?
Well, I said I'm talking tribal with Sam is currently my winner pick. I think from an edit perspective and also from a game perspective, I think she's probably been the MVP player of the pre-merge. I think she'll probably be winning the Chizzy after tonight. Depends on your points, I guess. But, you know, okay, not to spoil the Chizzy. Am I the promo team? What am I doing?
Oh my god, what are you doing?
Because I keep seeing spoilers in the promo team. I'm like, say what you want to say before you say it. That's kind of where my mind is going. But no, I think for Sam and Jesse to a degree, the issue is like they're so close to everyone that they will have to cut people. Like Ben clearly feels great about them and they're targeting Ben. But then they have to cut, you know, like, well, I mean, Croc was coming for Jesse. But like, you know, if they're going to go for Khan, like, she's super, super close to Khan. So I think maybe Ben she felt like she could part with and, like, still keep her other relationships. So socially, like, incredible just the way that she's been going about it. Question to you is, so they say they have an advantage. We know that people like Sam must be thinking about it. I said, not on them. Last time high with the Sophie vote. I quite like them still going with it. Sam has said on Twitter that she kind of just wants to play the game as she plays it and deals with twists as they come, which I think is totally fair, especially when you're as short up as she is. But like, what did you think about this, like making this move a big blindside on Ben when there could be a possible non-elim, when you don't have a majority of loved ones on the other side, which really kind of insulated the Sophie vote? Did you feel similarly about it, that this was like a fine thing to do?
You can get the eggs from the island and
I saw her tweet and I wondered how much of that was apocryphal and like how much of it was that they just kind of barreled on.
I think you just want to make the move. Yeah, there's probably that part. Yeah. So I'm not sure. I don't know if we can speak to that. I guess what I will say is that I think perhaps it comes down to Jesse a little bit more. Jesse seemed so keen to get Ben. He was starting him.
He seemed really keen on it, to the point where if it backfires, it's Jesse's fault.
It was.
If we pull out on it, then you're annoying your closest ally. And perhaps it's better in that case to just roll with it and know that if some weird thing happens where he goes to the other tribe, Mark can finish him off. Like, so again, if she did know and barreled ahead, I think that she's well insulated enough that no recoil was going to hit her, and we saw that it didn't.
Yeah, I mean, those four are so powerful, like her and Jesse, and then Jordy and Mark on the other side, where like any twist again, if it's like a save thing, the fact that they didn't save Ben and send him back shows that they probably would send him if he does go to the other tribe. Like, their loved ones are the ones in power. Like, it is well insulated. I just think as well, you know, they maybe never lose that tribe again, and then Ben's at the merge because they would be that strong. So there's, you know, maybe he gets in with the boys club. There's some stuff there that I think makes it more risky. But then there's also so few options. Like, she seems really close with Khan, who's the other option here. And also sending Khan might be worse because he has an idol that he, you know, gets to keep, and you've just like averted a powerful player with an idol to their position in the game. So you might want to go with like a really like easy vote, people that seem like they're on the bottom. Michelle, who's thrown out early for being like weaker, quote unquote, or like worse in the challenges, and KJ, who maybe is just a little bit less connected, but again, like she has her relationships, and I think Jesse said in a secret scene on Template that like losing KJ was bad for him because they're close. So I think it's about those individual connections, and like I think that if anyone is powerful enough to just make the move and handle the fallout as they did, probably is like this pair of Sam and Jesse.
The other thing is that plan seemed like it had been in motion for a really long time. And like, when you watch the show, you assume that the plans come together from after the challenge loss. And that's when the plan... That's not true. The plans come into play days and days beforehand. Particularly if you haven't gone to Tribal Council. You might have the same plan that's been, you know, set in motion 4 days earlier. And it's just like 4 days of confirming and keeping everyone's paranoia at bay. It seemed like it was in place from earlier because Jesse even had time to kind of get paranoid and have to come back and check. So it might have been too hard to then unpick it at that point.
Tristan, I not die.
I mean, Croc's not into it, but
I'm
it's like a
almost
whole, so it's not
dying.
even like they're like going out on their own with this like faction and they're going to really come back to a divided tribe. Like, that's not true either. I thought that Ben seemed the most obviously close to Sophie, who's the last vote, so even maybe from Ben that was just like the dynamic that he was on the bottom. So it might just be like the train has left the station at that point.
Can we talk about what Croc decided to do here?
Yes.
Because I don't know if you saw what I tweeted about, but
You're a little man coach.
this... And
Oh,
you can
shit.
go back... Yes. You can go back to, like, any podcast I was on after season 1. And I will talk about this concept here, which really, I never imagined it being a thing that I would have to deal with on Survivor. It never even came into my thought. That when someone is going home, so say we're all going to go out, vote out Shannon. I then go around and say, all right, we're voting out Shannon,
What?
And then people go, okay.
I almost got stabbed a few months ago. How dare you?
We're voting out Shannon and we're keeping Tasty Shannon. So
Tasty Shannon.
you are voting. You're gonna, so you're going to vote. Blah blah. Oh, do you know what? I really don't want to be the one who votes for Shannon. I'll vote for Tasty Shannon. And
Couldn't think of
Shannon
one
will
other
go home
name.
anyway.
Yeah.
Tastier Shannon. So then I'll vote for Tasty Shannon, and but she'll go home anyway. It is fucking annoying to deal with. It is impractical. It is super cowardly, and finally we can point to a moment that the show has, because that happens all the time, by the way. I can't tell you how many times I've had to deal with that in my Survivor career. We finally have it televised where he has said it, and then it came back to bite him in the butt, because do not believe Chrissy that it was Ben's fault that Ben turned on Jesse. Croc turned on Ben when he was willing to let him go. He just didn't want to get the blood on his hands. And yes, 2 days later, he kind of decided to flip the script because, you know, he saw that things weren't going the way he wanted. But originally, Croc was willing to let him go. He just wanted the cowardly way out of not writing his name down because he's his friend. Well, if he was really a friend of yours, you would either barrel through and try and find a way to save him, which admittedly he tried to do the next one, or you suck it up because you're playing Survivor and you vote them off because that's just what you have to do. And then you'd be friends with them afterwards, because any Survivor worth their salt. If they're voted out by their friend, we'll still be friends with them afterwards.
Well, the reason I say you're a little... Yeah, I mean, I'm completely on the same page with you. The reason I say you're a little man, Coach, is like famously, Coach wouldn't actually flip to voting out Boston Rob. He could have made it a 4-4 tie. Instead of making it 5-3, he made it a 4-3-1. Through his vote.
I think this is a different situation.
You're a little mad, Coach, and then Coach does not, you know, survive much longer than that.
The courage of your stomach
I do
bring you
think that it
victory in
is...
battle. We'll be here whenever you desire more delicacies. And your next meal will be on the house.
Find the hotel, baby.
So, Hakata. All right. If that Nora will risk the chef
It doesn't help
special,
me at all. Thank you so much that you didn't put my name down. I mean, you didn't tell me I was going home. You didn't say anything. You tried. And I asked Croc about this, and Croc said, oh, like I thought there could be the numbers on Khan. I voted for Khan. I want to talk about this from Ben's perspective, and I'm really excited to talk about this vote as I've been, you know, amping up the whole podcast, because like the more I got into it, the more intricate it became. I don't know that anyone necessarily...
Are we in the second episode?
What's the ones I did see this actual...
Like, yeah, I think that, if I'm Ben, and I saw so much, oh my god, like his one lifeline, his one ally, the one person who was there for him. If I'm Ben, I'd be like, well, it's not because of you that I'm here. Actually, I was voted out last night. Ben told me in the X interview that, you know, they had this deal where they tell each other, he hadn't been told. So there's a few parts of that. There's also no loyalty to Croc. No loyalty at all. I mean, Croc was okay with Ben going, okay enough to the fact that it literally happened.
Okay.
And then there's the other part of that is, literally yesterday, because that one was a one-episode order, I think, Croc either couldn't save you or wouldn't save you. So when Croc comes now, and he couldn't save Ben, we'll talk about it, but there were no numbers on Jesse. Jesse was not getting voted out in that episode. Why should Ben rely on that? It didn't work 24 hours ago. What is the definition of insanity? Yes. Like trying the same thing? It didn't work. The numbers weren't there. Jesse was not a target who could go home. So why should Ben go with one option, one safe option, where he's still getting votes from the people who aren't on Jesse? He's still an option. Why should he go with that?
100%. And it was shocking. I didn't think he would do that. But when he was talking to him, right, when he has that little scene where they're talking at the fire and they kind of...
So I need a new charger,
you can actually
right?
see the wheels going in Ben's head, like...
Oh, wait, that's a cauldron.
My lifeline. Ooh.
I didn't see that.
No, I've got a better lifeline. Like,
this meal
you
will
can
put
see
that
it
right.
And
You'll be eating your
power
way
to him, because what a great TV moment to see someone sell them down the river. But what I was the most surprised at is that Jesse and Sam straight away were willing to, like, believed it. I was like, one of my golden rules on Survivor is if someone tells me that I'm getting votes, you do not believe them straight away. You go and you verify that from someone else in camp, anyone, somehow.
Well, Sam said later that it was Chrissy's lack of poker face that kind of confirmed it for her. She said that
I don't know, they look like they...
well, definitely to his face, you want, like, I don't know if they, like, fully believed it, like, they're talking to him in that moment, and then sitting with it, I guess.
Yeah, I just thought that was interesting that they were so, they're probably better Survivor players than me, because I know they are, because they said, yeah, cool, this is the new 3, done, bang, like, you know, let's do it, and they didn't give him false hope, they gave him hope so that he kind of locked in with them. So that was probably better than what I've been doing, which is like running around and getting verification and stuff and wasting time.
Well,
but I thought that was interesting.
Let's work this up, because we'll start with Sam and Jesse, because I feel like that's like one of the less interesting parts of this, because Sam and Jesse when that information is delivered to them, and I guess they do confirm it on Chrissy's face, they're left with no other option. Because if they go to Chrissy and they're like, hey, what's the plan? Chrissy, who ends up voting for Ben, Chrissy, who thinks she's voting with Sam and Jesse in that vote, that they're all voting out Ben. Khan, Chrissy, Sam, and Jesse, those are the 4 votes that she thought would be on Ben. That's the vote she thought she was making when she departed from Croc. She's not saying, hey, Croc wanted to go for Jesse. Let me be honest with you now, because she has that loyalty to Croc that's beyond game, because she's probably still weighing it up in her mind. So she's voting with them, but she's not being transparent with them. If she goes and she says, guys, let me just tell you, this is what's happened, but I'm with you and Khan is with you. This is the 4. I'm not voting with Croc. I know that's hard to believe, but we as a 4 are doing it. That gives them an option. Maybe they do turn on Ben. But when they go to Chrissy, she's going to say it's on Ben. Well, that's not the whole story. Now that's actually a very, very small part of the story. Even though she ends up voting for Ben, the journey that it took to get there will not be what is being communicated to them. So they can't vote for Ben, because if they've got Michelle
Oh, is this
Ben
the top of the
Croc,
cauldron?
they've got them 2 on Ben, and Chrissy and Khan and Croc really are on Jesse, then they just 3-2-2 themselves out of the game. They know that they have an actual majority of votes onto Croc with Michelle and Ben, and they take that majority when Ben is targeted, when Jesse's being targeted, like they were left with no other option. So I think for me, like that's the perspective.
A very complicated vote. And so beautiful to watch.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay, I want to work up, because I think the Chrissy and Croc thing is, my mom asked me a really, really great question, and we'll get to it. But again, I'm anti-promoing this. We're going to amp up. Let's talk about Ben, which we have discussed to a degree. Because how much credit can we give? I think he's misreading Sam to a degree. I think he trusts him much more than he should. And Croc told me next, I don't know we didn't see it as much, but Croc said that, like, he told him, like, Sam and Jesse spearheaded this, although, I don't know, maybe an ally not letting you know is almost more painful. Like, he's been that close to Croc, that Croc, like, letting it happen and not telling him, to me, even though he's not spearing it, might be that much more painful.
I can attest to that. That it is more. The people that you're closest to going along with someone else's plan is more upsetting than the other people that you're.
Yeah, I guess we'll end here. We'll do another episode, obviously. I don't think we're watching.